is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Elvis Stockton Rossini. Talk about a book that's been written at just the right time. Secrets from My Chair details the importance, the emotional attachment, the meaningful relationship many women and men are realizing, especially now, that they have with their hairdresser.
Well, hi, I'm Mary Jo Lyle. I was a hairdresser color specialist for 34 years. So I decided to write a book when I retired, had thought about it my whole career, and clients would tell me these crazy, crazy stories. And I would say, stop, wait, I'm going to write this down and write a book one day. And then they'd say, okay, that sounds great, but don't use my name.
You're everybody's shrink. Everybody loves their hairdresser.
They really do. I have heard stories, some of which I could not write. And obviously I altered a lot so they couldn't be traced back to the original source or I'd be killed. But women will talk to somebody who is a stranger faster than sometimes their best friend because they're not judged. They would walk in and sit down in front of that mirror. And I could tell just by their expression that something was going on with them. And I could just touch them on the shoulder and there it came. We also have stories about children where I had someone bring in their 3-year-old for highlights for a pageant. Yes. And I'm like, no, this child has naturally blonde hair. We don't need to do that. And they just stood over me, the grandmother and the mother, and made me put a couple highlights in this little angel's hair around her face. And then we had to lie to her and tell her it was conditioning so that she wouldn't tell her dad, which they told me later would kill me. So... and she won.
It was because of those highlights. That's crazy.
Of course it was. I know. I had another client that came that got special permission. She was in ICU. And when it was time for her highlights, and I said, don't come in now. I'll come to you. Well, she got permission from her doctor and came and got highlights while she was so out of it on drugs that we could barely get through it. But it just makes you realize how important our job is. So, but it gets a little juicy in some areas. And
give me a juicy one, Mary Jo.
Oh, my goodness. Well, one in particular, I guess, would be someone having marital problems that ran into an old boyfriend through social media and spent a little time with him. I don't want to give all the details away, but let's just say there was a tape recorder in the vehicle.
Oh.
Yeah. But the main thing is not to tell on these people, but they always have a little lesson with them. And there's always a final judgment at the end where it just teaches a little bit. And I had a friend that's my age. He said, we don't need lessons anymore, but we really do. But life's lessons are the best lessons rather than just having someone tell you how you need to be. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun writing it. I think sometimes in my business, I don't think people give a lot of credence to what it takes to do what we do, which is not only physical, but it can be extremely emotional too for the client. And they entrust us with so much that it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. A cut can ruin your day. A
Yes.
highlight can make your day. It's pretty funny the way our emotions are wrapped around our hair.
It really is. It makes a huge difference. And isn't that so evident right now when people cannot have it?
Yes. You can't make somebody do your hair right now.
No, I have to say, ours are starting to work around here now. Take them lunch when you go because they're not eating, because they're working so hard trying to catch up. And maybe a flower. I'm really hopeful that it sparks some interest just because we have found how important our hairdressers are during this time.
And I guess you had a lot of people show up at your book signing because everybody knows you, right?
I am very, I'm very blessed to know a lot of people in this town, and they couldn't wait because first of all, they wanted to see if they were in it. And secondly, they just were so supportive of my career that lasted so long, and I became so close to them. They were family. It was very hard to retire for that reason primarily, but they were great. And fortunately, I have out of state clients that I'm able to support and sort of promote my book in their areas, and it's been very gratifying.
Well, you are very lucky. Thanks so much, Mary Jo. You know, they say laughter's the best medicine no matter what you're going through. And our next author tells us how to make divorce fun.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rhonda Remington. I am the author of How to Make Divorce Fun. I live in Casper, Wyoming, and I am an insurance broker. I had been a bridesmaid in 13 weddings, and I have 13 ugly dresses to prove it. And now all my friends were divorcing. Everybody got divorced at the same time. And so I just started taking notes. People had gotten themselves in so many situations, and how you deal with it, you can actually have a pretty good time with it. It can be fun. They do stuff to make you mad. You do stuff to make them mad. So if you look at it more like a game of mental chess and don't let the small things bother you so much, you can come out of it actually much better off and a much stronger person. It's all about how you deal with what happens. My favorite story, I had a friend come over and he was absolutely devastated. His soon-to-be ex-wife had convinced him that he was absolutely the most horrible father on the face of the planet. He had been serving in Iraq. He was an army guy. And when he got home, he had found out that his wife had decided that she liked girls better and she left him for a woman and absolutely made his life miserable. And she had convinced him that he needed to take an afternoon off work and go to what she told him was a parent-teacher conference, but what actually turned out to be an adult literacy class for English as a second language. So that was a good one. That was hilarious. She is an evil genius, and I take my hats off to her. She was totally whittling away his whole ego and his whole reason for being, and she did a masterful job of it. She did very, very well. It wasn't very much fun for him, but she got a kick out of it.
You've never been divorced.
I have been divorced twice.
And was that fun for you?
No, actually, it wasn't fun for me at all. I made some terrible mistakes. I actually wound up paying palimony in a state that doesn't even recognize alimony. So the purpose for this book is to help people avoid the pitfalls that I myself made and maybe be able to protect themselves a little bit better. You know, maybe not marry losers in the first place.
Okay. Have you gotten better at, not hanging out with losers?
Yeah, I got a St. Bernard. He's fabulous, and that's who I hang out with. It seems to be better this way. It's all about your mental well-being, about taking care of yourself, and about being able to put things in perspective so you don't dwell, so you don't make it worse than it has to be. And so my book is just an advice manual on, hopefully it'll make people laugh. Hopefully it'll help them keep everything in perspective, because divorce is just like everything else in life. There's changes, everything changes, and the better you can get through it, the healthier you can get through it. And laughing is the best medicine. I wrote a quiz so you can kind of see and identify where your ex might have some weak spots that you can take advantage of. I know it sounds really bad, but it actually can be kind of fun.
So, it's an oddball time to be writing a book. So how are you getting the word out?
Really bad at social media. I'm trying to do some of that. I'm just, I'm doing whatever I can to get the word out. But I'll tell you, the people that have read the book absolutely love it. I had one gal that called me from California, and she said, I got food poisoning really bad, and here I am sitting on the toilet, barfing my guts out, laughing my head off. So that part was good. So it does, it's serving its purpose. It's making people happy.
Well, if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. Thanks, Rhonda. Human trafficking, drugs, bad actors with ninja skills all create a psychological thriller based on a true story in our next book, Banshee, the Black Art.
My name is Bob Smith. I am a lifelong martial artist and a military contractor, and I specialize in anti-terrorism. I've been working on the book for quite a while, and what inspired me was actually a crime that had taken place here back in the 90s. We had an actual murder that had taken place. There was some organized crime going on here in Hawaii, and I had actually crossed paths with a guy who had inspired me to write the book. The book is about a serial killer, and he's a human trafficker. And the human trafficking is actually one of the things that we do in the military. Is we teach visit, board, search, and seizure for the U.S. Navy and Department of Defense. And visit, board, search, and seizure means that we go onto other vessels and we look for people, drugs, weapons, money, anything illegally that they would be smuggling. And more often than not, around the world, it is people, because there is more trafficking, more slavery now in the world than there has ever been.
That is so disturbing.
It can be disturbing, but the book has a good spin to it. A serial killer from Korea is trafficking women and drugs, and he's running the gambling, and he got in trouble because he beat up a couple of the wrong people, so he had to kind of go into exile. So he joined the military, South Korea Special Forces. That actually made him even more of a threat because now he received formal training on how to use weapons and his martial arts training and things like that. In the military in Iraq, he experienced killing on an up close and personal level and decided that he enjoyed it. So it was one of those things that the only thing that could satisfy him was actually raping and killing. So he began to traffic women in prostitution, and that's what started filling his lust. And he realized that he could extort people in the businesses in Korea, so he started to develop a very large income that way as shaking down the Korean businesses. And that's happened here a lot in Hawaii over the years. From the 80s and 90s, a lot of the small businesses here in Hawaii have been either shaken down by, believe it or not, Yakuza. In the 90s, it was the Korean mafia. They kind of pushed the Yakuza out, and they took over when the methamphetamine trade began to peak here in Hawaii.
So there's a lot of action in this novel.
A lot of action, a lot of dark action.
As a writer, describing a fight using martial arts, is that difficult?
That was very difficult for me because trying to put it into words that the average reader could understand versus, I could go sit down and have coffee and talk to friends of mine who were in martial arts, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's the greatest thing ever. But trying to sit down and discuss it with somebody who has no idea what I'm talking about and put it into words that they would understand, that was difficult.
You're in Hawaii. How are things there as far as COVID?
When it first hit, we actually had a book signing here at one of the only bookstores in Hawaii. We had it scheduled for that weekend, and the governor shut everything down and just locked everything down. I've just been pushing the book through social media, and we're going to actually try to work on doing a virtual book signing. We're going to announce it, advertise it, give people a certain date and time, and a lot like the Zoom seminars that are going on right now. People will be able to log on. They'll make the purchase online. And as they make the purchase online, then I'll talk to each person the same way I would as if they were sitting in front of my table, sell them the book, autograph it if they'd like it autographed.
So you'll have a pile of books there, and then you're going to send the books out?
Yep.
That's a great idea. And you know what? That would be good for authors who have a hard time getting out in the best of times, let alone a pandemic. That would be a good thing to try. All right, Bob. Child custody battles take a severe toll on all parties involved, emotionally, financially, and psychologically. But our next book, A Heart Needs a Second Chance, gives us hope.
Hi, my name is Tom Adonetto. Currently live in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. I was a project manager working for a lot of federal governments. I worked on the space shuttle, the F-15, and what got me into writing was I had to write monthly reports, and I had to make the reports sound nice, even though it was bad news. So you had to be a writer to do it. I had a very unique experience, my first divorce, and it was unbelievable what I went through. First of all, I was heartbroken. It was a total shock to what had happened to a 20-year relationship with someone that I loved, that I knew since we were 17 years old. Life hits you when you have the responsibility, but there was the stress of life and dealing with work, career aspirations, having 4 children, and you lose that personal time. And now my character, Bob, he has a total responsibility for caring for his 4 children and his wife, stay-at-home mom, and he loses perspective of his love for her because he's overwhelmed with stress. And she does the most drastic, unbelievable thing. She goes into a shelter with no evidence and without any due process. My character, Bob, he loses the right to see his children. There's no hearing. There's no evidence presented. It was a declaration. But they take away men's rights. 2.5 years of subject to no visitations, no phone contacts. That destroyed the relationship that he had with his 4 young sons. But I show what the system is like. And the reason I entitled the book A Heart Needs a Second Chance is because It's really to help men or anyone, to help them understand what they're going through and to give them hope to pull through. But sadly, in the process, you might lose the ones you care. In this case, Bob loses the love and affection of his children. But more important, he does get a second chance in life. There's no other book that portrays a love, a relationship that goes bad, and what a man, a good man, had to go through, the laws of due process, the greedy lawyers. So when he saw that this thing, there was money, they went, I got to let this go in 6 or 3 months. And after they win the first battle, and it takes 2 years to go to court, even though the character's been in court for settlement of this property, and who lived at the house, who pays these bills. There was never the issue regarding visitation ever presented to the court. And this man has to endure the loneliness of living in hotels, he's living with friends, he has a loss of job, and he struggles, and he's thinking of suicide. And through praying and the support of friends, support groups, and this is why my book is very important, because regardless how tough life can be, you can make it if you just give it a chance, control your any bad feelings you have, to do drugs, to do alcohol, or to hurt other people. And this is why it's a reflection of society. It's a horrible part of our society. The book does not blame the system. It's just the way the system is. If you do have a second chance, but you have to work within yourself. So it is, in a way, a help book in that way as well.
I give you a lot of credit for hanging in there, Tom. Thank you. And it's time for us to take a short break, but we're coming right back. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Elvis Stockton Rossini. Are you lost? Well, our next book might be just what you need. It's entitled How to Find You.
Oh, hi. My name is Nathan Hatchie. I live in Palm Springs, California. A full-time author, currently looking for office space because these kids don't let daddy get to work when he's home writing. So my book is How to Find You. It's a motivational memoir of how to go about finding yourself. Some of us still struggle with that to this day. We were all born with a gift, a natural born God-given gift. Your gift is what you do best with the least amount of effort. And what inspired me to write about it was I discovered my gift in 2010. And when I got married in 2013, I suppressed that gift. And after I was divorced, it was a bad marriage, but 2 beautiful children came out of it. I reignited it, and my blessings and my life was just complete and got back on track. And I want to share that journey with the readers. My gift is writing. It comes very easy to me, very natural to me. But I enjoy writing humor, comedy, and I also write newsletters, and started that about April 2nd, grew that to almost 400 subscribers, and it's constantly growing at a rate of anywhere between 3 to sometimes 15 subscribers a day. Wow. So yeah, writing is my gift, and I'm a much happier person for doing what I love doing, what I'm gifted at doing, than doing anything else. There's 7 steps. The first steps are, first is, in order to know where to go, you have to know where you've been. Sometimes you just won't know right away what you're gifted at, and then through a series of events like how I encountered, that's how you'll encounter it too. Don't quit your day job right away, because you're going to need an income to live and pay bills and put food on the table and put clothes on your back. And questions like, what are you gifted at? What comes easy to you that you haven't done? Sometimes it's just the feeling, that burning desire, and God puts that in us where you just know you're supposed to be doing what you're doing, but sometimes fear holds us back. And fear is false expectations appearing real. So the book snaps out of that. Now, once you find you, it's not just as easy as, okay, let's do it. Sometimes you have to put the right people in place. And in my book, I also talk about how to go about getting a mentor. and what steps you do to get a mentor. So finding you is one thing. Sometimes what you're gifted at is a completely different field than what you're doing. Now it's a matter of, okay, I got to put myself in the right position, because in the Bible it says walk with the wise and become wise. So you need the right people in the right places to help catapult yourself to the next step. So I talk about that in the book, Steps How to Find You. Once you find you, hey, don't let fear hold you back. By the way, it's very wise to get a mentor. This is how I got mine. This is how you can get yours. A mentor is advice that comes from someone that genuinely wants to see you succeed, and no strings attached. But as far as how I get the message, I use my email list to get the message. I use Facebook. I use Instagram. And I just recently did an interview in Fresno, Central Valley Talk Radio. That's been on YouTube as well. And Amazon, I just converted the book into an audio book on Audible, which is an Amazon platform. The message just gets out that way. Sometimes on my email list, I'm asked if, hey, could you sign my book? And I'm like, sure, send it to my P.O. box and I'll send it back and sign it for you.
All right, Nathan, man, you got it all figured out there. Thank you. Our next book weaves real life into fiction. Green Wave to Stormy explores PTSD and the devastating effects on loved ones.
Hello, my name is Corky Hummel. I am a retired teacher and school principal, most of which was happened in Alaska. I have 3 children, all successful in their endeavors. I live south of Seattle in the state of Washington, and I got interested in doing a book. I had done some writing about stories involving my life in Alaska. I have more than 100 events that took place up there that do not happen elsewhere, and a lady friend that liked my writing encouraged me to begin a new approach to doing fictional rather than, in addition to the nonfiction writing that I had done before. My book started out in a town just north of Nashville, Tennessee, the town of Gallatin, and it's about music to start with. I was a cello player as a youth, and I start a young lady at the age of 8 on the cello, and she advances more rapidly than anybody in that musical center of Tennessee. The title of the book is Green Wave to Stormy, and the green wave comes from the slogan of the high school at Gallatin, Tennessee. It's called the home of the green wave, and those were successful years for both her and her high school sweetheart. Then the stormy portion of the book follows both of their first years out of school and his going into the military and spending 2 tours in Afghanistan and coming home with PTSD, very serious. And the interchange between the two of them is of a stormy nature. And so I chose that as my title. At the time of the story, the years of the story, there was a lot of conflict. The VA's reluctance to validate PTSD and TBI was more severe then than now, but it hasn't left. I mean, it's still out there. His case was so severe that his parents finally gave up on him, and his violence, the need for drugs and such to bring forgetfulness of war activities and memories and such, is a severe problem with people coming back. I interviewed 7 returning men from Afghanistan and spent more than 20 hours going through activities that they were experiencing, and activities or events that take place in the book. They all have background in what the interviews provided me. So I have not done a lot of the promotion stuff out here yet, but I plan to start pretty soon. We're opening up, and bookstores are starting to open up again. So
that's really good news, Corky. Thank you. Finally, the tables are turned in austerity when a cheating man gets his due.
My name is Debra Saltburg. I'm from Winslow, Missouri. I work in a factory right now. We package hand sanitizer and soap.
Wow, you must be busy.
Yes, I am. Actually, I was sitting on my back patio back in September 2014, and I started jotting down some names and characters, and then the end result was austerity.
So you never wrote before? You didn't like to write? You just one day got an idea for a story?
Right. Just popped into my head. Never wrote anything before this. It's like hearing about women getting abducted and tortured and stuff, and thought, too, it happens to men. We just don't hear about it. So I just, gave it a shot and ended up writing a book. It's about a lady that meets a 32-year-old lady that meets a 21-year-old guy in the park, and they hang out together for a few weeks. And then he tells her he has a steady girlfriend, and then she flips out and she sexually abuses him.
How does she do that?
They hung out for a bit, and then she ended up talking him into going to an inherited property that she got from her grandparents that she lived with for a while. And she took him downstairs, and she ended up chaining him up and tied him to a table and started just doing things to him.
And he wasn't able to overpower her?
No, she actually put some chains on his feet to keep him, so he couldn't run away. He did fight her a couple of times, tried to get away, but she always overpowered him, with a taser or something, that he couldn't actually get away. She even knocked him out with a pipe on his back one time, so she just couldn't get away. Actually, it's her own son, her 50-year-old son, Curtis, hears him screaming downstairs when he's walking around the back of the house, and he breaks a glass window, and looks in and sees him, and her own son actually rescued him.
Nice. Okay, so the question is, will Katie take him back?
Well, I don't know if I should give that away, but she does take him back eventually.
So he was dating Katie.
Right.
And Tiffany is the one who he kind of hangs out with for a few days.
Yeah, because Katie went on a vacation with her family for 3 weeks to Colorado and Minnesota. So when she was gone, he went to a park that he hangs out at, and he met Tiffany, and they started hanging out until he started telling Tiffany that his girlfriend's going to be back in a week, and then she sexually abuses him.
Well, I think it's nice that you turn the tables a little bit,
Right, yeah, right. I'm working on another one to go with it. It is called Austerity with a Vengeance, and I hope it'll be released by the end of this year, early next year.
Just decided you found something you love.
Yep, yes.
All right, Debra, thanks so much. We got to run. This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Elvis Stockton Rossini.